That was fun.
Our youngest sleep.
Sheila said she has gone to Portland to pick up her daughter. She won't come. So that's how it is. Okay, yeah, Vishnu had today Annat Prashana, first feeding, and then we put all kinds of things in front of him, money, and what else? Book, pen, and then and something to represent technology, mechanics, software, hardware. But he went for the pen. So he's going to grow up to be first he would not go for anything. Then we were thinking he's going to become a sannyasi. But then he went for, what did he go for? Pen. Yeah. So that is why the class is little late. We have finished 13.
Swamiji, we started taking 12 and 13 together.
Yeah, but did we finish 12?
12.
We finished 12. Yeah. So that's what I meant to say. We have finished 12. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinnavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. 12 and 13 we will chant together. Eko vashi sarvabhutantaratma.
Eko vashi sarvabhutantaratma.
Ekam rupam bahudha karoti.
Ekam rupam bahudha karoti.
Tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha.
Tamatmastam yenu pashyanti dhiraha.
Tesham sukham shashvatam netaresham.
Tesham sukham shashvatam netaresham.
Nityo nityanam chetanaschetananam.
Nityo nityanam chetanaschetananam.
Eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman.
Eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman.
Tamatmastham yenu pashyanti dhiraha.
Tamatmastam yenu pashyanti dhiraha.
Tesham shantish shashvati netaresham.
Tesham shanti shashvati netaresham.
Yeah. So we have seen this 12th one. Ekaha vashi. Vashi I told you, Yeah. Vashi means the one who has the whole, everything is under whose control. We have seen that. And this vashi is the truth of the self, is the truth of everyone else, is the truth of everything else. And ye anupashyanti. Those who see this, those who understand it as what? Atmastham. Atmastham is decoded as Atmani Tishtati, that which is sitting in the Atma. So, Atma here means heart. So, can you say consciousness is sitting in the heart? No. Correct? It's like saying Samudre Jalam Vartate. The water is located in the ocean. Is the water located in the ocean? Say no, so we can quickly proceed. Even though it is tempting to say yes, because you feel, of course ocean contains water, so water is located in the ocean. Water is not located in the ocean. In fact, that, grand, limitless body of water is known by the name ocean. Correct? So you cannot say water is located in the ocean. And much less you can say that the the dhira is watching the consciousness located in the heart. Because in the heart will become more important than consciousness, more pervasive than consciousness. We cannot have that. So even though the Upanishad says this, we have to be very clear that they don't have what is called adhara adheya sambandha, a relationship of like a cup and water. You know, the water is held by, you know, the water is the holding agent for the water is the cup. Supposing you say, so here the cup becomes adhara and the water or whatever material is held there becomes adheya, correct? So that is not the relationship, because Atma can never be adheya. Adheya means held by something else. So whenever we encounter the word Atmastham, which is there in 12 and 13, Atma here doesn't mean Atma, it means the heart and it means the buddhi. So here the buddhi cannot be a holding place for the Atma. So then shall we do away with the buddhi completely? Please do not, correct? Yeah, because without buddhi what is there? You know, nothing. And so permanently vegetative state. That is all that is there without buddhi. So therefore, what is the role of the buddhi in this recognition of the Atma? That's exactly what it is. In the question is hidden the answer. So the role of the buddhi is to make that which is prakati karanam. So that which is already prakatita, which is already there, which is already manifest. Prakatita means manifest. That which is manifest, it is making evident. That which is self-evident, it is bringing to light. It is not really bringing to light, but so to speak. Meaning, the buddhi is a place to recognize that which is all pervasive, all, self-evident. So it's not that the buddhi is shining the light on the Atma. The buddhi becomes a place. Definitely it's a place, because you cannot say I'm recognizing the Atma in my toes or in my nose. Definitely it's in the intellect. So the buddhi definitely is a location, but it is not a location for the Atma. What is it a location for? It's the location for the faculty of recognition of that which is all pervasive. That's all it is. Just like a mirror, lights up your face, correct? So you go in front of the mirror and you stand there, let us say, admiring yourself and your own glory, and you say, oh, I don't look bad, look at me. And supposing somebody comes along, they come behind you, you see them, and they say, where is your face? They ask a question and you point to the mirror. This is what Adi Shankara says in the Bhashya for this particular mantra. So Adarshastham Mukham. So this face is where, you cannot say my face exists in the mirror. That would be like saying Atma is existing in the buddhi, is located in the buddhi. Is your face located in the mirror? No. Why these obvious questions are taking so long for the answer to come? I am wondering. It's because we cancelled a few classes. It doesn't mean,
You went into an unconscious state.
Exactly. So just because you are recognizing the face in the mirror doesn't mean it exists in the mirror, correct? Same thing. Now it becomes abundantly clear. Now it becomes abundantly clear that the face does not exist in the mirror. Where does it exist? Yeah, in every mirror. Yeah, exactly. So too the Atma shines in every buddhi. It's like a room full of mirrors. Infinitely projecting the infinite. That's all it is. It's a place of recognition. It's not a place of location. Just like the mirror, you cannot say my face is in the mirror. I don't know how to get it out. I'm trying, I put some cream on my hands and I'm trying to pry it. And then I thought I'll take a carving knife and pry out the face. Still not able to catch the face. So this is what the whole thing is. And so when Atmastham, I'm paying a lot of attention because it occurs twice. Oh, twice? Where? 12 and 13. Yeah, twice. Tam Atmastham. So therefore we have to pay attention to it, because otherwise we'll gloss over and think that, Atma is located in the Buddhi. No. It is a place of Abhivyakti, recognition. It's a place where it is made to come to light and it is recognized. And it also, the Buddhi doubles as the place where the Jagat is recognized and where the truth of the Jagat is also recognized in the same place. Jagataha upalabdhisthanam, Jagataha adhishthanasya upalabdhisthanam eva. That is what it is. So, the place where the Jagat is recognized is the same place where the truth of the Jagat is recognized. That's what the whole thing is. So, this recognition factor is what is called Atmastham, Buddhistham, and ye anupashyanti. So, there is hope for us because it's in the plural, anupashyanti. It's not a, lone fellow. What is that? Riding like a cowboy riding off into the sunset, lone fellow, and ekaha pashyati. No. Ye means all the people. All the people means who? All the people who are studying this. This is hope beyond hope. It is very optimistic, these two verses. All the people, ye anupashyanti. Anupashyanti means what? Anu means what? After what? Yeah, after, very good, correct. Anu is a prefix which means after. After what? Now, this is very important. After a cup of coffee. This is multiple choice. Today we'll have multiple choice. After a cup of coffee, yes or no? No. Okay, tea. No. Then after what?
Realizing in accordance with the Shastra.
That is what was told last time. Anu here packs in the teacher, correct? And the Shastra, the teaching. And it's not just enough to say there is teacher and teaching. Teacher and teaching is everywhere. But that means what? I have to move my hands and legs and approach the teacher. Haath pair chala ke. You cannot say, if I am meant to have the knowledge, let the teacher come to me. This is what is called spiritual romanticism. Yeah. In every tradition, you see who goes to who. Does the teacher run after the student? Saying, please study with me, please. No. So, who goes after who? The one who wants to know goes after that which is a fountain of the knowledge. So, here, anu, just that small word, not just pashyati apne aap. Pashyati means what? Sees, understands. How understands? Just had this wonderful thought. What is the thought? I think I hear God talking. God is telling me a few things. Oh, that's interesting. What is God telling you? God is telling me to rid the earth of you. That is what God is telling me. This is very dangerous. And then someone else also says, I am hearing voices. And then somebody else says, Atma is blue light. How did you know? I knew in my meditation. So if blue light is Atma, what shall we do with purple light, yellow light, green light, red light, orange light? If none of that is Atma, only blue light is Atma, Atma becomes a small little flicker of one color. That limitlessness gone. Limitlessness, hanihi. Hanihi means loss. There is a loss of limitlessness. So therefore what? So therefore this whole thing has to be understood properly in keeping with the teaching, in keeping with the teacher's lessons, in keeping with how it has been taught for 10,000 years. We don't try to change things, But still, as every teacher teaches in his or her own way, it is always alive, it is always interesting, it is always present, it is always you, because you are always fresh and you are ever present. That is why it never gets boring. To drag the mirror analogy here again, even if someone is 96 years old and the face looks like a road map, full of lines, and then you pass a reflecting surface, they will look at themselves. Such is the love for the self. Only thing you think the face is you. That's the problem. That's why you have a face off in front of the mirror. But you are not your face. But still the love of the self is so much that even though it has been taught for 10,000 years and virtually in the same class, in every class we are studying the same thing. Okay, I have gone and said it, and I've given out my secret, my trade secret. So even though we are practically studying the same thing in every class, it shines as though I am hearing it for the first time. Oh, that's why it seems like that. Yes, I thought it seems like that because I'm not paying attention. That too. That too. That's also the reason. But then, what else is the reason? The reason is because Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidena. Some people look upon it as a wonder. Each time they see it, it's a huge, big wonder. Ascharyavat vadati kechid anyaha. Some people teach it as though it's a wonder, and then you're enjoying your own teaching. It's wonderful. And then what? Ascharyavat kaschid anyaha shrinoti. People who are the students of this listen to this with wonder. What is the greatest wonder? Shrutva api naveda kaschit. Even after listening again and again and again, they don't understand. This is the greatest wonder. So that's why this is what so ye anupashyanti. Anu means in keeping with how it has to be taught, in keeping with how it has to be internalized, in keeping with the message of the lineage of the gurus, the shastra and the matter at hand, the subject matter at hand, and going through this whole thing, agama, guru, etc., then you become what is called a dhira, dhiman. Dhiman means the one who has buddhi, literally. Grammatically, one who has buddhi. What about the rest of the people? What about the pickpocket? Pickpocket has buddhi or not? Yes. It takes, you try picking a pocket, you will be caught immediately, I assure you. You won't even go, you just hover next to them and you will be caught immediately. Yeah. Because even the thought, even when you have the thought, I think I should pick their pocket, you will go all red in the face and people will get suspicious and then, catch you. It requires a lot of intelligence. How to catch hold of a gullible person, who is also distracted and who appears forgetful. How to catch them and how to pick and then how to distract them, and all these things require a great deal of effort, correct? Not just effort, buddhi. So pickpocket has buddhi, serial killer has buddhi, and the habitual offender has buddhi. Then why only dhira means the one who has self-knowledge? Why not dhira means all these people, why are they not called dhira? Huh? Why?
Dhira has dharma.
Yeah, dhira has dharma, and dhira is interested in self-knowledge. That's the only use of the buddhi. All other use of the buddhi is just either you use the buddhi to prepare for self-knowledge or you use the buddhi directly for self-knowledge. There is no other use for the self-buddhi. For the buddhi, use for the buddhi, there is no other use. So only for self-knowledge or for preparing for self-knowledge, otherwise it's a useless buddhi. Even though you have buddhi, you are hoarding the brain cells. Correct? And so therefore the pickpocket is not called dhira. And also the word dhira even though Adi Shankara translates it as Dhiman, it also means grammatically. It says, what does it say? It says Dhihi Rati Dadhati. Dhihi means Buddhi. The one who Rati means gives, protects. So the one who protects his or her Buddhi. By what? By not going into other distracted uses. And then the one who Rati also means gives. So who gives advice to others. Advice, not just, fly by night advice. Advice here means what? That which people can actually make use of. That kind of advice. And the person who studies and teaches is also called Dhira. So the Dhiraha Anupashyanti, and Tesham, this is also a refrain, although the words are interchanged. Tesham Sukham Shashvatam Na Itaresham. Na Itaresham means not for others, it's very clear. Tesham, only for such people who have studied this knowledge. Sukham Shashvatam. Shashvatam means what? Infinite, limitless, timeless. Otherwise, for other people, what? Ashashvatam Sukham. They do get Sukham, but what kind of Sukham? Little bit of Sukham here, little bit of Sukham there, and then little Sukham, and then they eat, and then it becomes Dukkham immediately. Why? Because they overate and now they have stomachache. That's all. That's all. Very simple. So, they just are scavengers of Sukham in the world of the objects of which are as good as garbage. Yeah, so the object world is as good as garbage because it's going to end up there. Correct? Yeah. So whatever you have and whatever one is desiring, it's on its way to the landfill. Really. It's just got a little bit of time there, that's all. It's on its way to landfill. Yeah. First it fills your heart, then it fills the land. That's all it is. So this landfill headed object, anything you desire, clothes, where are they going to go? Even this body is a tight fitting suit. That's all. You just don't know where the zipper is. That's why you cannot come out. It's what is that? When they go to surfing, they wear that tight suit. What is it called? No, it's wet suit. Wet suit. Yeah, except it's dry, but this is like a tight fitting suit. That's all it is. You just, that wet suit you can take out because you know where the zipper is. Here, you don't know where the zipper is, you cannot take it out. Only Lord Yama has to come and unzip. That's all. He's got the matching key. This is a combination lock, so he's got the key. And even though you're saying no, not yet. No, few more years. No. He says time is up. Come on, chalo. And he just gets you out, ejects you from the suit. Correct? So then where does the body go? Landfill. It goes either 6 feet under, or it is, it's either interred or it is cremated. Landfill, I'm telling you. So any object that you desire is on its way to garbage. So then what does that make you? A scavenger. That's all. Like you see people, like on the garbage day here, before that they want to make 5, 10 cents by returning some bottles or something. So they come and pick everyone's garbage. What a sad life. And even though we are sitting nicely in our houses, looking outside the window, and even as we are feeling sorry for them, what are we doing? We are doing the same thing, although in a slightly more glamorous way. Yeah. We are doing the same thing, slightly more glamorous, we are driving to the mall and buying something and saying, oh, this is a very object of art and it is so wonderful. Same thing, scavenger. And especially on that Friday which is coming after that holiday, that Turkey Day. Black Friday. Yeah. There you can really see what I am trying to say. People are pushing and pulling, and at the same piece of garbage, 5 people are pulling at. This is what the whole thing is. So this is what is called ashashvatam sukham, ashashvati shantihi. So the shanti comes from garbage picking, because for a while you feel secure. Just like the bottle collectors, they one day one bottle collector will talk to another. Today we had a good, nice little, nice jaunt excavation. We excavated a lot of bottles from these recycling bins, and we are going to make quite a nice tidy sum of money. They are telling each other, oh good. So tomorrow's food, we don't have to worry. We can sleep very nicely, even though we are sleeping on the pavement. It is wonderful. Tomorrow's food, we don't have to worry. So saying this, they go to sleep happily, and they go to sleep with a sense of security. And the suited, booted, tied up garbage picker, tied up means not wearing a tie, tied up in his or her own notions. So this fellow wearing a tie, suit, boot, everything. And then what? This person also goes to sleep secure, saying what? I got this job, yay! Garbage, that same thing. Yeah. I got married, yay! Bigger garbage. And then, because marriage is more finite. And then what happens, So like this, we have all kinds of garbage pickers who are really wanting what? Shashvati Shanti. I'm taking both of them together, and then whatever is different we will see later, okay? So Shashvati Shanti, verse number 13, even the person who is picking up the garbage in the Jagat scavenger, every samsari, every jiva is a Jagat scavenger, picks the Jagat clean of every finite object and then takes it home and tries to make it infinite. Come on. Yeah, come on, live longer, come on. And then everything at home is on life support, Everything is on life support because that's how it is. Trying to make the finite infinite is the first definition, first characteristic of what we call samsari. So trying to make the finite infinite. And so how to do that? Not possible to do that. Not impossible to do that. You cannot do that at all. And so therefore what? Therefore the problem here is that of inverted vision. What is the inverted vision? Upside down vision. So you are looking for that which cannot be looked for, which is not an object, which is the very nature of you. And then you are still looking for it outside, and you think you have found it outside, and then you take it home, and then what? And then you put it on life support. You have to keep giving it some resuscitation, and then it will last, somehow crying, it will last for some time, and then plunge you back again in the depths of despair. And then what? You have to take your sacks and go scavenging again. This is what it is. And this happens life after life after life after life. And so really speaking, even what even every scavenger wants. What does every scavenger want? Every scavenger wants to stop scavenging. That is what it is. That is what is Shashvati Shanti. Because if you keep scavenging, that means you have not found what you want. Each piece of garbage is more useless than its previous one that you picked up. So therefore what? So therefore the scavenging has to come to an end. And every scavenger wants to stop scavenging. This is our bread and butter. This is why we are able to open Vedanta shop. Yeah. And lure the scavengers. This is what is called a course in stopping scavenging. And so the Vedanta brochure, if there were one, will be reading, are you sick of scavenging in your life? Yes. Are you tired of repeatedly enjoying the finite? Yes. Are you in search of the infinite? Yes. come one, come all to the Vedanta ball, leave alone all the malls. This is what our brochure would say, if we were to make a brochure. But then we don't advertise. Why? Because we cannot enforce adhikaritvam. Yeah, we cannot enforce qualifications, because this is for the person to understand this, that I am sick of scavenging, that everybody knows. But then perhaps the answer to my sorrow, to my fear and to my insecure life is not this continual scavenging, and perhaps I have to look elsewhere. That sadhana and sadhya are not matching. I have to do something over here. That is not understood. And if that is not understood, then for that to be understood, some values must be there. And then some desire to learn must be there. Some shamadama, etc., some patience must be there. Some resolution of all the other, pursuits must be there. Or at least the commitment to resolve that must be there. Without that, nothing happens. And so therefore, we cannot enforce adhikaritvam, so therefore we cannot market, and we need not even market it, but we cannot market it even if we wanted to, because we cannot enforce this at all. So whoever comes, comes. Whoever is meant to come, comes. And so therefore, who comes? Dhiras come. Yeah. And therefore they, all of them, te sarve anupashyanti. They see it. Anu also means they see it just like their guru did. Just like their guru saw it when in the previous generation, when the guru got this knowledge from his guru, from her guru, from his guru, from her guru, going all the way to what? Harindar's backyard, Lord Dakshinamurti. So going all the way to Lord Dakshinamurti, this is what is the, we say Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. I salute the whole lineage that started with Lord Dakshinamurti and had this shining comet called Adi Shankara in the middle, up to my Guru. I salute the whole lineage. And this is something, fantastic. And so here it's not about Anu, here means just like my teacher saw, I will definitely see. That is the confidence here. So anupashyanti dhiraha, and for such people who are able to see it in accordance with how it is taught and how the lineage has revered this knowledge, for them what will they get? Shashvati Shantihi or Shashvatam Sukham. Both are same. So here Shashvatam here means eternal or infinite, limitless happiness. Now how are you going to describe limitless happiness? Even Vaisheshika Sukham you cannot describe. Aindriya Sukham. Aindriya Sukham means the pleasure connected to the sense organs. Can you describe? No. Like what is sweet? Come on, describe. This is connected to the sense organ of taste. What is sweet?
What's not salt?
Yeah, then you will have to say neti neti, but even neti neti doesn't describe. Come on, tell me what is sweet. Supposing there is a Martian and you are describing the sweet taste. All you can do is, that. Gulab Jamun, Martian doesn't know Gulab Jamun. Laddu, Martian doesn't know Laddu. You keep going like this round. Nothing they know. And then what do you have to? You hope they have taste buds and you stuff one Laddu in their mouth. That's all. Correct? You taste it for yourself. So even Aindriya Vaisheshika Sukham means Sukha connected to the Vishaya. Even the object Sukha you cannot describe. What to talk of subject Sukha. Correct? So therefore the subject Sukha doesn't mean that it's indescribable. It is you. It is you. And because it is self-evident, it need not be described. It cannot, because when you start describing it, what happens? You are objectifying it. If you say, let me tell you the happiness of Brahman, let me tell you right now what the Brahman's experiential happiness feels like. And then as soon as you say that, what are you saying? Brahman becomes an object. That's what you are objectifying, that which is the subject. So what if I objectify? If you objectify, what happens? It does not remain what it is. It becomes into a small finite experience in time and in space, which is none of it is Brahman. None of this is Brahman. So you cannot say I am going to objectify this Sukham, because even if you start to describe it, what happens? Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidvan na bibheti kadachaneti. Yeah. And so what happens here when you start to describe? Taittiriya Upanishad says you become tongue-tied. It's almost like somebody has pulled the tongue and tied it into a knot. Do not speak. So you become tongue-tied. So then, yato vacho nivartante. So the speech beats a humble and a shameful retreat. You cannot speak about it. And then what? Maybe you can conjecture in the mind. No, the mind also is going in tandem with the speech. So when the speech comes back with its head hung low, the mind hides behind the speech and also comes back like a shadow. Not gaining. Aprapya. Prapya, praptva means, gaining. Aprapya, not gaining. Not gaining what? That which they were set after to gain. They thought, both the speech and the mind made a pact. We will reduce this Brahman. What is this mystery about Brahman? I am going to describe this Brahman categorically as an object. What's the big deal? Everything I can objectify, even space I can objectify. What to talk of Brahman? I will do it like that. And the mind says, yes, you are Vachala. Vachala means you are very good. Oh tongue, you are wonderful. Oh speech, wonderful you are. And the mind says, I'm going to back you. I'm going to send you appropriate thoughts to be able to verbalize. And the speech says, let's go to Brahman right now. And then they try to describe this Brahman as this infinite happiness or whatever, however they were going to describe. Then they hang their heads in shame and slowly slink back, return without having got their object. Why? Because it is the subject. They were trying to objectify that which cannot be objectified. And then what happened? Anandam Brahmanaha Vidvan. So this Ananda belongs to the Vidvan, the scholar, the knower of Brahman. And how do you know? Na bibheti. He is not afraid. The fearlessness is there. Sorrow is not there. Sorrow is described in the next line. Etagam hava vanatapati kimaham sadhu na karavam kimaham papam akaravam iti. And there is no tapati means there is no regret. Na tapati, there is no regret. Why did I do this? Why didn't I do that? Nothing is there. That is how. So you can describe it indirectly. You can describe the lakshanas, means you can give some indicatory words. But then how am I going to understand Brahman? How can I understand through indicatory words? Because Buddhu, it is you. That's why. Buddhu means one who has no buddhi, okay? Yeah. Not Buddha. Yeah. Buddhu means murkha. Because it is you. It is you. Oh, how will I understand if it is just an indication? How this indication is not enough. Indication is enough because it is you. It's already you. Oh, but how will I understand me? Because you are self-evident. Self-evident means what? That means you can never say I am not here. But am I here? Well, come and see me after class. So if you have that thought, I will have a special session with you. Yeah. So therefore, this is already you. So what this knowledge does is take away, all the things that don't belong. You already are, you are shining. That's what the whole thing is. So So Shashvati Shantihi, Shashvatam Sukham is already there. How is it there? Because when you recognize the invariable in the variable, that means what? You are not buying into the variable. And when you are not buying into the variable, then you see through the variable, and in every variable there is the invariable. Got it? Yes? No? Yeah, in every variable there is the invariable. The in is in every variable. Yeah. Invariably so. And that is what the next mantra is saying. You know, Nityaha Anityanam. I think I'm on the wrong page. Oh yeah, that's why. That's why I'm not seeing. Yeah. Yeah, here it is. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kaman. That is what it is. See how nicely it all is coming together. From the last line we are going to the first line. So the Shashvatam Sukham or Shashvati Shantihi, this unending happiness, and the happiness that is not based on the object, but that is in fact, centered on the subject. This happiness is not a gain. Because why? It is already there. It doesn't have birth. It doesn't have death. It is already there. So it's not a gain, it's an as though gain by discovering this very fact that all these other sources of happiness don't have don't have that which I don't need that, because that is based on the object which is finite when I am in search of the infinite. So the infinite being myself, it shines. And so now we have the whole world as cut up into finite and infinite, correct? So we have all the garbage heap of the objects that we talked. And so now we have the lonely sadhu turning away from the garbage heap and becoming a person who is introspecting upon oneself, etc. And even though this creates a wonderful feeling of spiritual romanticism, this is a ideal situation. This is not really the reality, and this is not how the teaching progresses. Why? Because that which was thrown away as the garbage is brought back into making potato peel soup. Yeah, there is actually such a thing. There is, I know this person who gave his wife how to make food from, no, actually it was not, he didn't give his wife. The wife gave her mother-in-law this book. The mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law they got along very well together, and they were just fond of cooking and everything. So she got purchased this book in some airport shop, how to make food out of your dustbin, how to cook from all the things that you put in the dustbin, like all these peels and seeds and all these things. And so the mother-in-law, she gave it to her mother-in-law for Christmas. And the father-in-law and the son, her husband and the husband's father both saw it, and without saying anything to each other, they hid the book. Because they did not want their Christmas dinner to come out of the dustbin. They hid the book, and now the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, there it was right here, I wanted to try out the potato peel soup. Where is it? Where is it? So, like that, first you throw things away as the garbage. This is Vedanta 001, and then in Vedanta 201, what do you have to do? You have to bring the garbage and say everything is Param Brahma. Everything is Param Brahma. I am not going to go after it because I know I am also Param Brahma. But so all the garbage is, what is that? Restored to its original glory. Correct? But this is not possible to do without this exercise of shunning the garbage. First you shun it, and then you say, it is just a notion. So there is no need to shun that which is a notion. Correct? Yeah. First it is shun, then it is notion. Correct. So that's all you do. And then what? So here the whole thing becomes, why does this garbage gets this treatment, this dual and confusing treatment of this, go away and then come back. Go away, I have to say, because I'm thinking that is Satyam. Correct? That is not Satyam, that is just Nama Rupa. Then with the help of the teaching, I see that which inheres all the Nama Rupa is that I alone, Sarvatma, Eko Vashi, Sarva Bhutantaratma, Bahudha, Rupam Bahudha Yah Karoti. When I see this truth, then something wonderful happens, because then I see that the Nama Rupa is Mithya, and what is sustaining this Mithya is this Satyam, which is Bhagavan, which is myself alone. So therefore I am not mesmerized by the Nama Rupa. So therefore I am able to bring it back in, because I don't see the Nama Rupa. I see only the invariable in everything that is variable. So anityanam nityaha. So in everything that is invariable, everything that is finite, I see only the infinite. This is really fantastic. Because first what I was seeing, first also I was seeing the same thing. See, this is so interesting. What was I doing before? I was mistaking the finite for the infinite. Now I am seeing the infinite in the finite. I am not doing adhyasa. Previously it was a superimposition. Now I am seeing the reality. And in this reality, it absolves me of that sorrow of things going away all the time. So what is happening here? The whole thing is so perfect, perfectly laid out. In everything that is variable, I am in touch with the invariable as myself. And in everything, Achetananam, in everything that is Jada, I see consciousness. Jada means what? Inert. In everything that is inert, I see Ishvara, I see consciousness. I see that as the truth of myself. And I see Bhagavan in everything. I Ishvarize the whole world. This is what the whole thing. I have to Ishvarize the universe, Ishvarize this body-mind complex, Ishvarize the garbage. Yeah, and then what? I see only Ishvara, 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 Ishvara everywhere. And so what do I see? I see the Nitya in the Anitya. In all the variable, I see the invariable one alone shines. The Nama Rupa drops away. It's like all the things in the universe undress just for me. And they show their real Rupa, which is Ishvara covered with a mask of the finite. Ishvara wearing a finite mask, a fine mask, a finite mask. And then all the things in the universe are unmasking themselves for me. They are shedding their, variability so that I see the invariable. I am this invariable. And then what? I see that one who is the source of all desires. Yaha vidadhati kaman. I see the source of all desires. Why desires? Because it was desires that made me a scavenger. Let's not forget that. It was the desires that made me a scavenger. And so everything starts from desire. This whole universe started from kama. So kamayate. See, that kama comes there also. But what kind of a kama it is? It is a kama free of pressure that made this universe. Oh, but I have a lot of pressures. Yes, that's why you are in the universe. And to exhaust those kamas. And so therefore, the pressure of the jivas created this universe, co-created this universe, you can say. So really speaking, Bhagavan Sankalpa doesn't have pressures. That is why it is called Satya Sankalpa. When such people say things, it happens. Because they don't desire anything for themselves. So Bhagavan also doesn't desire anything for himself, herself. And so then when the universe is created, it's created just for the playground for the jivas to exhaust their karma. and to have their kamas. So, kamam kamam vidadhati, the one who keeps giving all kinds of kamas. The source of all the desires I see as Ishvara, because why? The desire led to the confusion, self-confusion. Desire led to birth, desire led to self-ignorance, or the other way around, but they are connected. So because of self-ignorance, this desire came, and the desire perpetuates the self-ignorance, and so the desire becomes the key. And here I stop vilifying the desire and I see the source of the desire as the truth of myself alone. This Ishvara who gives the desires. Kamam kamam vidadhati, who bestows all my desires. So in other words, what? When I was a scavenger, when I was scavenging the footpaths of the Jagat, and I got very excited because I got a piece of something. I snatched it from somebody else. That also because Ishvara was only giving. I thought I was controlling and I snatched it and you didn't get it and I got it. But who was really giving? Bhagavan was giving. And the next time what happened? I was able to get 2 pieces. Snatch, give me. I woke up early, I went, I did this, I. Behind this I, who is there? Ishvara, the source of the I, which is the truth of the I, the content of the I. So kamam vidadhati, so fulfills every desire. Oh, but I also know how to fulfill desire. Yes, through blood, sweat and tears, you fulfill the desire. That's how you fulfill the desire, because everything is so hard. Oh, it's so hard. Life is so hard. I know one Swami who was just going somewhere a few years back, and then there was one a 3-year-old sitting, in front of, this was in India. So this 3-year-old is sitting in front of its flat in the house, outside. All the other children are playing and this one is just sitting there. And so the Swami said, so you are not playing? And this girl said, no, today I'm really burdened with sorrow. This is how she spoke. So that is how from age 3 one is feeling what? Burdened, completely burdened and feeling like nothing is happening. And then to fulfill one desire, you try. It is very difficult, not easy. But Bhagavan fulfills the desire how? Anayasena. Ayasa means what? Effort. Anayasa, effortlessly fulfills the desires. And that I see everywhere. I see that source of the one who is in control of all the desires. The one who controls what desire I have, the one who controls whether it should be fulfilled or not, and the one who fulfills it effortlessly. I see that in and through all the objects of desires. And when I am able to see that, what happens? I am redeemed. Yeah, I am redeemed. For me, then there is Shashvati Shantihi, not Shashvatam Sukham. And very nice, very beautiful. And then we have one more. Did we see all the words? Yeah. So Chetananam Ekaha. So that one being, one conscious name, being Bahunam. Bahunam means for many people. Yaha vidadhati kaman, who fulfills everyone's desires according to their prarabdha, according to their karma. So so tam Ishwaram, when you see this being as what? As not located in your heart, but when you see this being as being the truth of you, the very content of this I, then for such people, such dhiras, such people with buddhi, endowed with buddhi, will have shanti. What kind of shanti? Shashvati shantihi. Shashvati means the shanti that is not going anywhere. And then the next verse is a very, very humorous verse and a wonderful verse, and a verse that will make us smile, because Because in here is a question. And what is the question? Now I know about, I have had a taste through this teaching about, I know that now there exists Shashvati Shanti, correct? And Shashvatam Sukham. How do I experience it? Is it a particular cognition, or is it a series of cognition? Does it shine, or do I have to make it shine? What do I do? This is the next verse, for which we will have to wait for a month. You know, after my travels, this is the last, what last class?
No.
Last Kathopanishad class. So then Saturday morning we have what? Something. Mundaka Upanishad, 2 classes on Mundaka at 7:30 our time, and then Sunday Bodhasara at 9:30. Yeah, 9:30 we have Bodhasara. Last time we had a marathon, we finished a lot of verses very quickly. So we'll see what happens this Sunday. Okay? Om Purnamadah Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnamadaya
Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions are there? Even, there is a question here. Even a selfless desire can have pressure. Like great souls may take birth for the welfare of the people. So there is that pressure. Is there not? Well, you know what? We don't subscribe to the notion that the Mahatmas are born to help the people again. That is a Buddhist notion, and I don't know how they justify that, because I don't know that much about Buddhism. But there, for them, the mithya, and they have the concept of mithya without satyam. So everything is mithya, but then somehow suffering becomes real, because when there is no satyam, mithya becomes satyam. So the world is suffering, and I have the responsibility therefore of coming back again and again to relieve the suffering of sentient beings. This is what they will say. So that is okay if that's what is a belief. But we don't say that. We say that, we don't say the world is suffering. World is Ananda. You are Ananda. Jagat is Ananda. Bhagavan is Ananda. Garbage is Ananda. We just have to be able to see that. Yeah, that is what our thesis is. And since our thesis is that, since everything is Ananda, then when I know this Ananda that I already am, then I don't have to take birth again. And if I don't take, I only take birth because of the pressures of the desires. Oh, but then how selfish? What selfish? Are you subject to birth? No. Birth already is as though. Therefore, death is also as though. And so the ignorance is as though, really speaking. And the removal of ignorance is also as though. Just because there is ignorance doesn't mean Atma is hidden. Atma cannot be covered. Atma is as though covered by this ignorance, and the ignorance has a certain empirical reality, so it is dismissed, and once it is dismissed, what happens? There is no rebirth. So that is so much for the birth. But I understand the spirit of your question. What if a Mahatma, like take Pujya Swamiji, he does aim for seva. He is doing so many things, but aim for seva is one of the things we will take up. So All India Movement for Seva he started, and he is building all these student homes and doing all these sending all the things that services where they are necessary. So why he is doing all this? It is a selfless desire, because yes, he is happy doing it, but he is doing it, the focus is primarily, there is no pressure in it, because the focus is for loka sangraha, for helping the people. Because if he were to, supposing, let's say, God forbid, supposing it were to stop tomorrow, he is not going to be affected. Yeah, that is the whole difference between the Mahatma's desire and the desire of a samsari. Good question. Yeah, that is what it is. It is the Tibetan Buddhist view that, and also other Buddhists also say that you are born, you have to be born, you have a social and moral responsibility to reincarnate. I met one Lama female lama. Nowadays they are able to ordain the female lamas too. And then she said something like, "Please bless me." I said, "My prayers are with you. May you get whatever you want." She said, "I want to be born again." That was very different. And so, that is how I know that is what is there. That is a basic premise of the Buddhism. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Om Namah Shivaya.